Aliquippa feels if they have an antidote for Fritz and Simpson, they will win the game.
First thing that we're going to have to knock off is their quarterback, Lee Fritz. We're going to try to take him out of his game, do what we have to do defensively to stop him. And then after that, next person, Lanford Simpson. That's our next goal, knock him off. And the game won't be giving it to us, but it'll be a lot easier.
It all starts with their quarterback. Their quarterback is a wonderful player. I mean, the fullback, hey, they just defend the chapters. We're just going to come out and give it our all.
While Coach Sarah believes that the Raiders can keep Josh Lay, Jarris Wilcox, and the rest of the Aliquippa offense off of the field, they have a good shot at repeating.
Our key, and it's no different for any other week for us. I think if we, control the football and sustain drives, and, that's our goal week in and week out, so that's something that's not really going to change for us. And, as far as, stopping them, they're a potent offense. They have a lot of good athletes. And you look at every skill position, and they got a great athlete at those spots.
Both teams yearn for the gold and a trip to the state playoffs, but Aliquippa coach Mike Smianik expects a little more from his players.
Winning is not the goal. The goal is the fact that you play the very best you can, and winning will take care of itself. You do things right, you act right, dress right, talk right, practice right, do everything right, and if you win, it's great. And if you lose, you move on. This isn't life. This is high school football.
Bernard, Josh Lay, and Lee Fritz, two of the players that will have to be keyed on in today's Class 2A matchup between Aliquippa and Waynesburg Central. Should be a good one. We'll take a look at there's a look at Josh Lay right there, talented quarterback for Aliquippa. In fact, there were a lot of good athletes in the WPIAL this year. We'll take a look at the best of the best when we return to Championship Sunday here at Three Rivers Stadium.
下一则新闻是今天下午进行的中原总。
Well, welcome back to Three Rivers Stadium as Fox Sports Net's coverage continues of the WPIAL Championships here at Three Rivers Stadium. Okay, one game is in the books. Of course, Rochester winning over Monaca by a score of 13-6, taking that game earlier. The Class 2A game is on tap between Aliquippa and Waynesburg. Of course, a lot of good teams, a lot of good players in the WPIAL this year. It was kind of hard to find the best of the best. With a little help of some of the coaches, we take a look at the best players in the WPIAL on offense this year. This year, the talent ran deep in the WPIAL, so determining the Fox Sports Net all-area team was a little like deciphering a hand ballot. Not very easy. So with the help of various coaches, we present the 2000 all-area team. We start with the quarterbacks, and there were many that made a huge impact this season. This statement defiantly rings true for McKeesport quarterback Cecil Howard. He led the Tigers to the WPIAL quarterfinals this year and the WPIAL championship last season. Considered by many to be the best running quarterback in the country, Howard committed to Syracuse before the season. He finished with 1,383 yards rushing and 302 yards passing. This season also featured a record breaker in St. LaSalle quarterback Bruce Bradkowski. The Polish rifle set a new WPIAL mark by passing for an amazing 2,978 yards in 10 games. He also threw for 30 touchdowns to only 5 INTs. He showed that he had some wheels in the Rebels' loss to North Catholic in the playoffs as he ran for close to 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. He has not decided on a college as of yet. On to the running backs, who are led by Bell Vernon senior Nick Kalsovic. He used deceptive speed and strength to amass 4,343 yards in his career, 18th best in WPIAL history. Slowed by a bruised leg sustained in their opening round defeat to Pine Richland, Kalsovic battled through the injury to have a huge impact in his last 2 high school games. He finished this season with 1,967 yards and 27 touchdowns. Diminutive in stature, center running back John Sims put up some pretty huge numbers this season as he led the Trojans to the AA semifinals. Sims ended up with 1,822 yards and 27 touchdowns. A common cliche, especially this time of year, is that big players make big plays. That certainly is true of Hanover's Chris Fender. With his team in a defensive struggle against South Fayette in the opening round of the playoffs, Fender eventually wore down South Fayette and broke a 30-yard run that led to the winning score. Fender rushed for 1,806 yards and 19 touchdowns his senior year. Our last running back has been a vital component in leading Mount Lebanon to the Quad A final. Teams were so worried about his quickness, a rumor circulated that an opponent watered down their field to contain him. Sam Matthews currently has led the Blue Devils with 1,284 yards and 22 touchdowns. Running backs and quarterbacks have no success without the help of their offensive line. Our line is anchored by one of the best in the country and 6'5", 300-pound tackle Tyler Reed of Thomas Jefferson. One of the most sought-after players in Pennsylvania, Reed has yet to decide where he will start next season, although he has narrowed his choices to Pitt, Penn State, Michigan, Michigan State, and Tennessee. He was a 4-year starter for Coach Bill Chirpak. And here are the rest of the linemen. Brian Johnson, a stocky 5'11", 265-pound senior from Woodland Hills. He anchored one of the most explosive offensive lines in the WPIAL. Chris Haffey, a 6'4" tackle from Mount Lebanon. He opened holes for running back Sam Matthews and is headed to Boston College next season. Mark Ferris, a huge tackle from North Hills, is listed at 6'6", 275 pounds. From Class AA semifinalist is Colin Miles, a 6'1", 280-pound guard. And our tight end is future Pitt Panther, 6'6", 240-pound Eric Gill from Bell Vernon. That'll do it for the offensive side of the ball. Stay tuned for the next intermission when we will announce our defensive standouts. Griffin going 55 yards for the Rams to give him an early 7-0 lead, and they would set the tempo. Moving to the second quarter, Rochester would get on the board. Kevin Miller, 3-yard run, capping a 13-play drive. PAT no good, so it's 7-6 Rams. Late second quarter, Javon Bradley, 45-yard scamper on a 2nd and 8, makes it 13-6 Rams at the break. In the second half, not much scoring, in fact, none at all. Last chance for Monaca, but it's picked off by Antonio Horton. The INT is the beginning of the end for the Indians as Rochester goes on to win the Class A title. Gene Metzik getting the frozen Gatorade over his head. Let's check out the stats from game number 1. Lots of running in this one. Of course, the first half only took about 51 minutes. First downs going to Monaca, 11-6. Of course, Rochester getting all the offense they really needed on that first play of scrimmage on Griffin's 55-yard touchdown run. The rushing yards, once again, pretty high across the board, 168, 137. These teams... Sportsnet. The second one should be a good one. The first time ever that 2 undefeated teams will meet for the WPIAL Championship. The Aliquippa Quips looking for their 10th WPIAL title, while the Waynesburg Central Raiders are looking for their first title since 1996. We'll have more from Three River Stadium as our continuing coverage continues of the WPIAL Championships right after this. Between Aliquippa and Waynesburg are Billy Osborne, who was on the sidelines for game number 1, will be on the sidelines for game number 2. 2 undefeated teams.
Yeah, I heard you say it's the first time ever in WPIAL history that 2 undefeated teams, 2 untimed teams get a chance to battle for the Class A AA championship. So, you know, I was talking to the coach before the game. Very, very quiet. You know, nobody wants to give much away. They're ready for the battle. I talked to, obviously, Coach Mannix from Aliquippa, and he said, you know, we've been here before. We're ready to play.
Okay, and of course our coverage continues with the third game later on this afternoon, the Class AAA championship game, which should be a good one as well, fielding a couple of teams that are no strangers to the playing surface at Three River Stadium.
That's true. And anytime, you know, we talk about coming to Three River Stadium, there's always some kind of, you know, chance when you come out here that you're not, you know, you get caught up in everything. But those teams have been here before, and I think you're going to come out there and you see right from the start they're going to be hitting hard, ready to play.
High school kids obviously getting a chance to play at Three River Stadium, something that not all of us get to do. Of course, we're walking the sidelines and get to cover teams like Pitt and the Steelers. That's a thrill in itself, but to actually run on the turf, that's something extra special.
Oh, it's totally different when you come out here and you play. There's no, you know, you can't experience it until you're actually here. You see it on TV, you get interviewed, you watch games, but to actually run through the tunnel and get a chance to play at Three River Stadium, it takes a while to get used to. I know you come out for pregame, you get very, you know, juiced up, and you go back in the locker room, but to come out here for the first time with the crowd behind you, it takes something to get used to. So these teams that have been here before definitely have an advantage.
Now, this is the last year that they'll be held here at Three River Stadium. Okay, we're all upset. It's very terrible. But next year, you go to a brand new stadium, and you get to play on what nature always wanted us to play on, grass.
You know, that's a big change, too, because a lot of these teams haven't really played that much on turf this year. Some of these coaches had to actually take their teams yesterday or the day before to actually practice on turf to get the kids used to it, because it is a different type of surface, a lot faster. Today, it'll be a little slicker, but it is a change from your normal grass. Me, personally, as a former wide receiver, I like playing on turf because it made me faster, and I needed that. But as a player, when you're actually a game, grass is the way to go.
And obviously, if it continues to rain, the hair will continue to look good. It was slick before the day started. It's still slick.
I doubt that. I may go to that hat because it's getting very cold out here. I heard those guys teasing me in the first game because I seek shelter when it started to rain pretty hard, but we'll see if we can battle the weather in the second game here.
All right, well, we'll continue to talk about the second game between Aliquippa and Waynesburg. We're going to step away for a quick timeout. You're watching Fox Sports Net's coverage of the WPIAL Championships. We'll be back right after this. Sending Waynesburg Raiders. You know, perfection is hard to find in any sport. Sure, coaches and players always strive for it, but it's certainly hard to obtain. Well, the coaching staffs for Aliquippa and Waynesburg certainly don't have to ask for any more from their kids. Both of them run the table by going 12-0 this season, setting up the first ever perfect matchup in WPIAL championship history. Of course, the Raiders won the championship in 1996. The Crips are shooting for their 10th WPIAL title. Could certainly be a good game. Let's send it upstairs for the guys who will call the action, Rob Nicoleski and Sam LaFazzo. Gentlemen?
Thanks a lot, Dan. Rob Nicoleski along here with Sam LaFazzo. And Sam, we got one game down, 3 more to go in this double-A game between Aliquippa and Waynesburg. In many ways, some people think this might be the best game of the entire day.
I think it is going to be the best game because you got two similar kinds of teams. They have a great quarterback on both sides of the ball. Their defenses are very good. They like to run the football, so they're almost a mirror image of each other.
And one of the mirror images you're talking about are the quarterbacks. Lee Fritz is the quarterback for Waynesburg. He's had a terrific season. The statistics are a little bit sketchy in WPIAL play, but it looks like that Lee Fritz is one of the few players in WPIAL history to run for more than 1,000 yards and pass for more than 1,000 yards in the same season.
Yes, he probably is he's probably one of the very few that have done that. He's extremely poised. He has great skills. He knows how to throw the ball, but once again, he's a great leader also.
His running ability is very, very good. He has a per-carry average of 9.2 yards per carry. He's also a multi-sport athlete. He's a terrific baseball player as well. He plays a shortstop on the Waynesburg baseball team, and he's been recruited to play both baseball and football. Akron has talked to him about a football scholarship, and he's also gotten some interest from Penn State and West Virginia as a baseball scholarship. So this guy really is a multi-sport athlete.
Yes, he is a great athlete, and it shows because of the interest that he's had in the football as a quarterback and baseball as a center fielder.
Now on the other side of the ball, again, we're talking about this mirror image analogy. The other side of the ball, Josh Lay, Bernard Josh Lay. Josh is his nickname for Aliquippa. What a terrific quarterback this guy is. And in many ways, Sam, he's like Fritz because he's a weapon both offensively and also running the ball.
Yes, he is also a fabulous 22 quarterback. He can throw the ball on the run. He has a great sense and knack, tremendous skill. And once again, he is a tremendous leader. So they're not losing anything on both sides of the ball with their quarterback position.
He's thrown for more than 1,200 yards. He's thrown 19 touchdown passes. He hasn't gained as many yards on the ground as Fritz has, but get this, his per-carry average, an astounding 10.1 yards. He's a very explosive guy. Fritz is maybe slightly more polished, but I think Lay is probably the more explosive of the two players.
He's more explosive, and he has more of the skills, the quickness and the speed. And he's a threat every time he has his hands on the ball, Rob.
And he's also been recruited by some big colleges. Pitt and Penn State have been talking to him about possibly getting a football scholarship, although they want to make him a defensive back, but that's another story. Let's talk about the other side of the ball a little bit. Monroe Weekly, he's the big man for Aliquippa along the defensive line. Actually, he's a linebacker.
He's a man amongst men. I mean, He just has the physical stature. He has the size. He has the feet, the instinct. I mean, he's just a natural-born linebacker.
And he's also a guy who's also being very highly recruited. He's been recruited by a number of programs, including Pitt, Miami, Michigan, and Notre Dame. Also handles kickoffs among those schools that are trying to get him for scholarship. He says he's got 3 big bins full of letters. Lots of people looking for Monroe Weekly.
Well, they are, and I was just talking to him on Tuesday night when he visited us at the station. He hasn't made up his mind where he's going to go yet. He's leaving his options open, and I think that within the next 2 or 3 weeks he'll make that decision.
Let's talk about the big man on the other side of the ball then. Again, talking about this mirror image thing. Lanford Simpson, the big running back for Waynesburg.
Well, he dominated this game last year. I mean, he's just a big, physical, powerful human being. He plays fullback on offense. He plays linebacker on defense. He took over this game last year. I don't know whether he's going to be able to do that this year, and I don't think that he's going to have to do that. The pressure is not going to be totally on him as it was last year.
Let's talk a little bit about how these two teams got here. They're both undefeated, both 12-0. They ran through the regular season, had absolutely no problems. Then in the playoffs, they had no problems as well. Waynesburg defeating North Catholic. Then Waynesburg over Center. That game was just last week. And then as far as Aliquippa goes, they got by Steel Valley, then got by Shadyside Academy, and now then defeated Washington 43-28. One of the things I think that's interesting about this game, Sam, is that neither team has really had very many close games.
No, they have not. And I think that's indicative of the type of football that they play. There wasn't anybody in either one of their conferences that could match up with them.
It'll be a very interesting matchup. Somebody's going to come away from this game with their first loss of the season and a WPIAL AA championship. For Sam LaFazzo, I'm Rob Nicoleski. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with the AA championship game right after this. What's it like right now?
Well, thank goodness for me anyway. The field is a little damp, but the rain has stopped. It's still very, very cold out here. No wind really to report. Shouldn't have any problems with the ball or affect the ball either punting or throwing. But interestingly enough, Dan talked about it when he teased the opening here about both teams being 12-0, undefeated, the first time ever in the WPIAL. Also interestingly enough, both teams have been ranked 1-2 the entire season, so this is a great battle. And you have a battle within a battle. Both quarterbacks, you have for Aliquippa, Josh Lay, a great quarterback, and then for Waynesburg, Lee Fritz. Both of those quarterbacks are big-time quarterbacks, both Fab 22 guys. One of those guys got to step up and play here today. Interestingly enough, both big-time quarterbacks, but they're projected DBs in college.
That is interesting, Billy. Thanks a lot. And Sam LaFazzo is joining me here, and we're getting ready for the coin tossers. Mike Smianik, the head coach over at Aliquippa, looking to get Aliquippa's 10th WPIAL championship. Only one other team has more, Sam, and that's Newcastle.
Yeah, I think that, and when we were talking to Coach Smianik on Tuesday night, Rob, that's all he wanted to talk about. That Newcastle has 10, Newcastle has 11, Aliquippa has 10. They want to get to that next level. They want to get up there with Newcastle.
Well, of course, Aliquippa is one of the great programs in WPIAL history. Some great players come out of Aliquippa, like Mike Ditka, Sean Gilbert, Ty Law, who now plays for the New England Patriots, also Raphael Pudge Abercrombie. Waynesburg, on the other hand, hasn't really had much of a football tradition until the mid-90s. In fact, I believe before 1996, the school's career playoff record was 0-19-1, but Dave Serra's team has quickly established a real reputation here in the Western Pennsylvania.
And I think what you're going to see is that this senior class was the beginning of that tradition for Waynesburg. Simpson and Fritz and this entire offensive line and defensive people are responsible for bringing the Waynesburg program to the next level. And once again, they've been here. They're the defending champions, so there's been a tremendous job in the last 4 years to upgrade that program.
Yeah, so I guess in many ways we're talking about it's a battle between two of the big guys, battle between two excellent coaches, battle of two excellent programs. You're talking about Waynesburg, how well they've done. They've won 24 straight games against WPIAL teams, and this team, this Waynesburg team, has been together since junior high school, Sam, and they have only lost 3 games. Their overall record, counting junior high, 35-3 going into this game.
That's remarkable, isn't it? That's a sign of a tremendous program, and they built it from the ground up, and they've done it very slowly, and once it came on, it just has never stopped.
Well, Waynesburg will be kicking off. We're about ready to get this game going. The AA championship is underway. There's the kick. Fielded around the 10-yard line. And Aliquippa will get the ball just shy of the 30-yard line. And that's where they'll start business as Josh Lay comes onto the field. Look at his numbers. Well over 50% completion, 16 touchdown passes and just 3 interceptions. And for a guy who's really not known primarily as a passer, that's a great ratio of touchdowns to interceptions.
It really is. It's just, they don't rely on him, but when they ask him to do it, he just steps right up there and takes charge.
Lay will be the quarterback. His running back, Jarris Wilcox, a little guy, but don't be deceived. This guy has real strength. Number 2, he's their leading ground gainer, and he's the only man behind Lay, and Lay's going to throw on first down. Throws it outside, and that's complete to Quanier Gaskins. wrapped up, pickup of about 6 yards out to the 35-yard line. Tackled by Brian Golden.
Well, Aliquippa come out with a one-back set. They're spreading the field and forcing Waynesburg to cover the entire field. He did a real nice technique, drop back, and hit his receiver right on the numbers.
There's the starting lineup for Aliquippa. If you say the name Ladon enough tonight or this afternoon, you won't be too far wrong because there's 4 Ladon brothers on this Aliquippa team. 2nd down and 4. And the handoff goes inside to Jarris Wilcox, and he's very close to a first down. I think he has it.
Definitely has enough for the first down. You're going to squat the ball right over the 40-yard line there.
Here's a look at the Waynesburg defense. Church, Eddie, Mears, and Gregg along the defensive line. Simpson, Golden, Emmerich, and Black are the linebackers. Fritz, McLaughlin, and Bland are the defensive backs. They play a 4-4-3 defense, Sam. Rather unusual, but they really like it.
They like to run their linebackers, their skill linebackers. They utilize their quickness and speed.
1st and 10. Lay hands off to Wilcox. It bounces off one defender and falls forward for a couple of yards.
And then the comparison of the 4 versus the 50. On the 4, it's almost a gap defense. You're trying to pressure those 4 down people to get in the backfield and to stop them from getting their shoulders squared.
That was Lanford Simpson in on the tackle. We're going to mention a lot of these same names again and again and again because a lot of these guys at the skill positions on offense also play on defense. A lot of these teams go with players who go both ways. It's 2nd and 8 for Aliquippa. The pitch out to Wilcox. Follows a blocker. That's a nice tackle by Brant Blair of Waynesburg, and that'll set up a 3rd down situation.
3rd and about 2. Very good play, very quick feet. Running lanes opened up for him. He turned up inside.
Correction, that was Matt Emmerich with the tackle, number 42 on that. Aliquippa got here by defeating Washington last week, and that was a really big win for this Aliquippa program. Washington had been sort of a monkey on their back, eliminating in 3 of the last 5 years in the playoffs, so they got past them. Now they got a chance to play for the AA championship, their first since 1996. Lay back to throw, and he's going to go deep. Lost it up. It's bobbled and caught. That's Juanir Gaskins with the catch inside the 20-yard lines. And Sam, that's an example of what we were talking about earlier about how this Aliquippa team is very athletic and they're all also very explosive. Here's a look at the replay.
Yes, Josh just threw the ball up there, and the young man just made a fantastic hitting it at his high point, bringing it back down, and using his athletic skill.
It was deflected by his teammate Dwight Hines, and then Gaskins came down with a great catch, and Aliquippa inside the red zone. 1st and 10 from the 17. Lay rolls to his left. He's in trouble. Gets away from one man. He's still in trouble. Gets away from another. Throws across the field. And that's complete to number 40, Quentin Good. And there's another example of just how explosive and how quick these guys are.
Well, when you talk about the college people projecting him as a D-back, I don't know how you could do that because that was perfect. I mean, the skill that he has with his feet and his arm and his intelligence.
And also,
watch the scramble here.
And also just his coolness under pressure. There he almost gets tackled. He doesn't lose his composure. Gets away from Cody Black and fires a strike to Quentin Good.
And his eyes are always looking downfield. He's looking to see what's happening. Great view.
That's a major league play, and it's 2nd and short for the Quips. Ball goes inside to Wilcox, and he's stacked up. Nice tackle there by Kelby Church.
Well, that defensive front, those 4 down people are going to have to put some great charge on the ball and establish the line of scrimmage.
We were talking to Dave Serra. He's in his first year as head coach. Was the defensive coordinator at Waynesburg for the last 5 years. Took over for Russ Moore, who coached Waynesburg to the first AA title ever in that school's history last year. Serra's been at Waynesburg 9 years total, so he's very familiar with his defense because he's the man who designed it. 3rd and short. Full house backfield, and Lay goes right up the middle, and he gets the first down.
And if we have a chance to see that again, you'll see that the defensive tackles, which are covering the guards, just left a tremendous opening there. And I don't know whether that was a a call from the coaching staff, but he just saw it and he just made the 2 or 3 yards that he needed for the first down.
Well, that's a good point, because they did have the full house backfield, but Lay never hesitated. And right up the middle, when you got that kind of surge, that gives you a 1st and goal at the 4-yard line. And Mike Smianic's team on the verge of taking an early lead here in the first quarter. If you just joined us, there's no score. There's 7:13 left to play. Lay once again goes back up the middle, calls his own number. He's down to the 1-yard line.
And once again, Rob, what happened was they moved the tackles to the inside shade of the guard, and Josh just went around the guards and right into the open seam.
Take a look at the replay, and you can see that Lay bobbled the snap and actually fumbled the ball. We didn't see that. Great recovery there by Jarris Wilcox.
We definitely didn't see that.
And we missed that.
Crucial.
Big play there. So Aliquippa still knocking on the door. Second and goal. Lay pitches it inside to Good. We're waiting for the signal. He's just short. No signal yet from the officials. He might be right at the goal line, so it'll be a 3rd down coming up. Matt Emmerich with the tackle.
You can see right here where he's just pitching the ball almost like a reverse option there. And it was a great play, and they got it right down to about the 2-inch line.
Well, that looked like he was in the end zone, but the officials called him down just shy of the goal line. And it's 3rd and goal. I don't think they'll do anything fancy here, and they don't. Lay goes right up the middle for the touchdown, and Josh Lay puts Aliquippa out in front. 6-0 with 5:38 to play in the first quarter.
That offensive line, which is their strength, because all of the entire offensive line of Aliquippa are seniors, except for the left guard, and that's Tony DiNardo.
A real combination of power and explosiveness on this opening drive for Aliquippa as they go 71 yards on 11 plays. There's Lay going in from the end zone. And we talked about the explosiveness. They got the big play to the wide receiver. Then they just pounded it in once they got inside the 20-yard line. And this is not unusual. Aliquippa is going to go for 2. This team doesn't have a great kicking game, so a lot of times Coach Smianic goes for 2, and they're going to go for 2 to start this ball game up 6-0. Lay in trouble. Gets away from one man, gets away from another, but not able to get away from all 3 Waynesburg Raiders, so Aliquippa's 2-point conversion fails. With 5:38 to go, Aliquippa scores on its first possession, and the Quips have a 6-0 lead on the Waynesburg Raiders. Three River Stadium for the WPIAL AA Football Championship. Aliquippa jumps out in front of Waynesburg 6-0. Rob Nicoleski along with Sam Lafazzo. And to talk about setting the tone, Sam, I'm sure Aliquippa did that in that opening drive, going 71 yards.
And they did it with a very well-balanced attack. They just didn't do it on the ground as Rochester and Monaca tried to do it. They opened up the ball. They used their quarterback. They used the passing game. They used the running game. So it's a very well-balanced attack for Aliquippa.
71 yards, 11 plays. The big play, the 35-yard pass from Lay to Gaskins. There's the opening kick, or at least the kickoff from Aliquippa. Craig Bland picks it up, and he's wrapped up very quickly, and that's where Waynesburg will start its initial offensive drive at around the 23-yard line.
And I think what happens here is that coming back from the defending championship from last year, Waynesburg offensive line is not as experienced as what the Aliquippa's line is, so it's going to be a very good test right here to see how the remaining part of this game is going to go.
Lee Fritz, one of the best athletes in all of Western Pennsylvania high school football, takes the snap from center. That's McLaughlin in motion. Fritz hands off, and that's Danny Hott, who gains a few yards off right tackle. Tackled by Dwight Hines.
And they did a really nice job. That offensive line came off the ball, and they picked up about 2-3 yards here, more 3 yards than 2 yards. So everything's going exactly what they're planning on doing. They're going to probably stick to their game plan of running the football.
Here's the Waynesburg starting lineup: Barney, Greg, Church, Gooden, and Eddie along the offensive line for the Raiders. It's 2nd and 7. That's Hott in motion.
And Fritz hands off to Lancer Simpson. That's the guy we're going to be calling his name a lot, especially if Waynesburg is able to move the ball pretty well. Here's the Aliquippa defense. They play an unusual defense as well. A 5-2-4. Foster, Ellerby, Haskins, LaDon along the front line. And they're all supposed to funnel the play to these guys, Monroe, Weekly, and LaDon. And here are the defensive backs, Good, Lay, Wilcox, and Hines. And Coach Smianik said that 5-2-4 defense is supposed to funnel the play to the linebackers and to the safety men. They're supposed to be the heroes and make the tackles.
Absolutely, and that's also where their speed is.
3rd and 7. Fritz back to throw. He's got plenty of time. Scrambles to his right. Look out. He gets nailed. That's a loose ball. It's picked up by Waynesburg.
Very, very lucky on that play that they didn't turn it over.
Derek Mears was the man who picked that ball up.
Secondary coverage for Aliquippa was tremendous, and they're trying to once again run those deep routes, and it just takes too much time.
Fritz was looking to his right. Here's the replay. And did not see the man coming to his left, and that was number 42, Carl McBride, with the smack. But fortunately for Waynesburg, Derek Mears was right there, and Waynesburg will have to punt.
This is not the way that you wanted the first series to go, and it's not a very good punt here. Going to get excellent field position.
It takes a nice bounce for Waynesburg, and then that's Quanier Gaskins who runs out near midfield, and that's where Aliquippa will start business. On their second possession of this game, we got 3:27 to play in the first quarter, and Aliquippa up in front 6-0 as Waynesburg not able to do anything. Dave Sarah's team snuffed in their first offensive attack.
This is going to be a very critical defensive series for Waynesburg, because in the first series they didn't stop Aliquippa in any facet of the game, and they're going to have to do it here.
What may have been more dispiriting for Waynesburg on the first drive wasn't necessarily the long pass, but the way Aliquippa was able to blow them off the line once they got inside the 20-yard line. So Aliquippa starts in business from its own 47-yard line. The pitch out to Wilcox, and he gets stacked up around the 50-yard line by a host of Waynesburg Raiders led by Brian Golden and Matt Emrich.
Picked up about 3 yards, though. He's real strong back, gets his shoulders squared, good strong with his leg drive, good vision there also.
Mike Smianik said the key to today's game will be his team's ability to run the ball. Quote, if we can do that, everything can fall into place. That's what he told us the other night over at the Fox Sports Net studio, Sam. And so far, they've been able to run the ball fairly effectively.
Yes, and I think what happens is that when they run the ball, it sets up the pass. And what happens here is that Josh Lay had 1,070 yards in passing this year with 14 touchdowns.
The inside handoff there goes to Dwight Hines, and he's stacked up, and now it'll be a 3rd down situation for the Quips as Brian Golden's in on another tackle.
Well, I think what's happening now is Waynesburg realizes they're in for a fight. They have established a line of scrimmage in this series, and they're going to have to continue to do that.
So this looks like it'll be a passing situation, 3rd and about 7 for Aliquippa. And in these situations, even though it's 3rd and long, a 3rd and 7, Lay is such a dangerous guy, especially when he rolls out here, Sam. This is a situation where in some ways Aliquippa is not in that much of a hole.
You're absolutely right, and they're spreading the field.
Instead, they decide to hand the ball off to Wilcox. He gets away from one man and inside the 40-yard line before he's finally wrapped up by Lee Fritz, quarterback who also plays defensive back.
And Rob, if you notice the difference between the first game and this game, if you've been watching both of them on TV, is that Aliquippa definitely has more of a balanced attack. They don't rely on one facet.
In that first game, Rochester beat Monaca 13-6 to win the single A championship, and there's Wilcox. As I said, he's a little guy, but he's got surprising power for someone who's only 5'9". Aliquippa now 4 for 4 on 3rd down situations as they convert. Now it's 1st and 10 from the 38 of Waynesburg. Lay goes deep again, lost another one up, and that's caught, but it looks like that might be offensive pass interference there, Sam. Looks like Quanier Gaskins pushed off on Craig Bland.
You're exactly right, Rob. Right before the ball came down and pushed him off, set his feet and caught the ball. This is definitely going to be offensive pass interference.
Well, they've thrown 2 long passes down that left side, and both times, Sam, it's almost been like a jump ball situation. That's got to be by design. They're thinking that they can out-jump the defensive backs from Waynesburg.
Absolutely. They have the skill and the talent to out-jump them, and they're just putting the ball up in the air, and they're going after it.
Well, it's easy to out-jump somebody when you push them, and that's exactly what Quanier Gaskins did there. Although that wasn't that flagrant, but the official was right there, and he might have even been out of bounds when he caught it. His left foot may have been out of bounds.
15 yards from the preceding spot. And loss of down. Second down.
So that puts them way back to their own 47-yard line, and the official said loss of down, so that's that'll make it second down and 25.
Second down, 25.
Well, Waynesburg needs to stop here. Needs to stop Aliquippa, who's been able to jump out to an early lead on their first drive. And if Waynesburg can stop them here, they might be able to set the tone of this game in a little slightly different direction. Play hands off to Wilcox. He gets beyond the 50-yard line and powers forward down to about the 48-yard line.
He picked up about 7 yards, though. They didn't try to get it all back at one time. It's going to be third and about 7 or 8. And they're just trying to maintain the offense. They're ahead. They don't have to take any chances. They just want to be as consistent as they can, picking up 5, 6, 7 yards at a time.
There's a quick look there at Josh Lay. He's wearing number 9. It's kind of an interesting story. In home games, he wears number 12, but he lost his road jersey. So on the road, he wears number 8 or number 9. Today, he's wearing number 9. And it's 3rd and 20 for the Quips.
Rob, it doesn't matter what number he wears.
Lay back, and he's in all kinds of trouble. But Mears is there, just about has him wrapped up, and he still gets away. He's able to throw the ball, and that's complete. Over to number 81, Jonathan Ladon, but there's a flag down. And
I think there's too many linemen downfield. He just took too much time wriggle-raggling back there and using his athletic skills, and I think one of the linemen went downfield.
Well, we'll see what the flag is. And it's holding. Yeah, anytime you see a flag on a play like that, it normally is holding because the offensive linemen are just trying desperately to keep the defensive players away from their quarterback.
He went down almost 3 times. There's a good point right there. He refused to go down.
And that gives you an example of just how elusive this guy is. Derek Mears had 2 hands on him, still was able to get away from him, and still was able to complete the pass.
Third down.
Well, athletic skills or not, they're going in the wrong direction here. I think it's 3rd and a mile.
3rd and I think it's 31 to be precise. They've had an offensive pass interference call against them. And Mike Spanik has also seen his team called for holding, so it's 3rd and long. And more importantly, if Waynesburg can hold them here with an incompletion, they'll be able to get decent field position. And again, that's something that might be able to change the tone of this game so far, which in the very early going, with 26 seconds to go in the first quarter, has been all Aliquippa.
You're exactly right, Rob. It could change the field position.
And they decide to run the ball instead. Jarris Wilcox, that's maybe a gain of 1.
And you can see the competitive edge that Waynesburg is bringing to the table in this this series here.
Kelby Church there with the stop as the clock winds down. The final seconds of the first quarter as Aliquippa scored on its first possession, missed on the 2-point conversion. They're not going to have enough time to get the punt off. We're going to take a break as Aliquippa has gotten off to an early 6-0 lead on the Waynesburg Raiders. You're watching the WPIAL Championship, a quadruple header today here on Fox Sports Net.
You talk about high school tradition, Aliquippa has a ton of it. They're going for the 11th WPIAL Championship, and one of their most famous alumni, of course, we all know Mike Ditka. And I talk about tradition. In the field house that they have here in Aliquippa, they have an Indian head. They used to have an Indian head. Now it's an A. And one of the tradition is you are not allowed to step on that A. And many years go by, and there's always a captain. This year, if you get caught stepping on the A, you have to answer to Moo Moo, Monroe Weekly.
You don't want to answer to that guy. Thanks a lot, Billy. Lee Fritz takes the punt down around the 42-yard line. Billy Osborne's got a couple of reasons to be happy. First of all, Socorena, and secondly, his Pitt Panthers got a big win yesterday against West Virginia. Let's take a look at the first quarter statistics in this one. Aliquippa, as you might guess, because they had the ball more than almost 4 times more than Waynesburg did as far as time of possession go, dominating things. 38 yards rushing, 54 yards passing for 92 total yards. And look at that, Sam, 1 total yard in offense for Waynesburg.
They only ran the ball 3 times, or rushed the ball 3 times.
Well, here's Fritz under center. He hands it off to Hott, and once again, nowhere to go. That's a nice tackle there by number 40, Quentin Good.
Well, Rob, I think what's going to happen is that Waynesburg's going to have to limit the amount of offensive opportunities that Aliquippa has. So once again, that old phraseology of your offense being your best defense. If they can keep Aliquippa's offense off the ground, they have a chance. If they're going to go 3 and out every time and give Aliquippa the ball, it's not even going to be close.
Well, this Waynesburg team averaged 270 yards per game on the ground, and so far they are going nowhere fast. It's 2nd down and 10. Fritz hands it off to hangs on to the ball, faked it to Simpson, and I guess he faked out a couple of Aliquippa players too, because he had a nice gain out of it. It picked up about 5 or 6, tackled by Joe Wilcox. He's up near the 50-yard line.
Well, Lee had 121 attempts for 1,119 yards rushing and 17 TDs during the course of the season, so he knows what he's doing as far as running the football.
Last season, he threw for more than 1,000 yards and ran for 800, and one of his goals this year was to go for 1,000, both running and passing. He was able to do that, and as we said at the top of the broadcast, he's one of the few WPIAL players to ever do that, run and pass for more than 1,000 yards. Big 3rd down play here for the Raiders. Haught goes in motion. Fritz rolls, he's under pressure, dumps it off, and that's complete. 32. That's Derek Mears who get the first down. And that's the first down that Waynesburg's been able to rack up. Glenn Haskins with the tackle.
Very nice, well-conceived play. He came out of the backfield. Notice him coming out of the backfield here, and he just lobs the ball right over his head.
Derek Mears with the tackle, or with the catch, and he breaks a couple of tackles and gets the first down. Excuse me there, Sam. First down for the Raiders as they're now inside Aliquippa territory for the first time today. 45-yard line with 10:20 to go. Clips out in front 6-0 in the AA championship. Ball goes inside of the big fella, Lanford Simpson, who gets about 3 yards. Well, they're making a little bit of a dent as far as their running game goes, Sam.
And I'm sure this is indicative of what they've done all year. You know, they're only looking in their ground game to pick up 3-4 yards at a time and then open that up by using the passing attack and Fritz's ability to run the football.
We talked to Coach Sarah before the game about this Waynesburg team, and we mentioned how they've only lost 3 games, at least the nucleus of this team has only lost 3 games since junior high school. Says this team is a real quiet bunch, not a rah-rah team, and that might be because they've been so successful since junior high. They take a real business-like approach to things. They expect to win.
And he was really proud of the fact that that's their kind of demeanor.
And we got a flag down here on the 2nd and 7 play, so they'll stop things, try to figure out what happened here.
And when you're experienced and have that kind of attitude and you go into the game, they say that you can only play a game for about 5 minutes on emotion, and then it comes down to execution and talent and not making mistakes.
On the offense, repeat 2nd down.
You're talking about execution, and this is similar to the single-A game we saw where Monaca could not afford to have penalties because it didn't have a terribly good passing attack against this very talented Aliquippa team. I don't think Waynesburg can afford a whole lot of penalties, even if they're the 5-yard variety. There's a little confusion there in the Waynesburg offensive huddle, so Lee Fritz takes a timeout. That's the first timeout we've had in this first half, 9:24 to play. And we've got 2nd and about 11 or 12. We're going to take a quick break. We'll take you back to Three River Stadium in just a moment, right after these messages. Almost midway through the 2nd period, Waynesburg's got the ball. It's 2nd down and long for them as Lee Fritz takes it up to the line of scrimmage. Waynesburg trying to get a sustained drive for the first time this afternoon. Ball goes inside to Lanford Simpson, and this is what we're talking about, Sam. This guy's a Larry Zonka type, and he just took out a couple of quips on his way to a first down.
Rob, that was a great analogy right there. He did run like Larry Zonka. Got his shoulders parallel, and I think what happens is that with 2nd and 9 or 10, Aliquippa's looking for the pass or something, draw or screen, and they just ran the fullback right up the middle and picked up those 9 yards.
Dave Serra's got to be happy to see that, and maybe his hope is that as the game wears down, that maybe they can wear down Aliquippa with that big Lanford Simpson who seems to run harder as the game goes on. Simpson's the only runner in the backfield here on first down. It's McLaughlin in motion, and they give the ball to the big fella again. No, once again I'm wrong as Lee Fritz goes down the sideline, gets away from a couple of players. He's inside the 10-yard line. He's faking me out, and he's faking out the quick, Sam.
Well, I think he faked everybody in the stadium out. It looked like Simpson had the football, and he was going through untouched, and the next thing you know, he was scooting around the left side, and he has some great quick quickness.
Well, he's gotten me twice, so I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant in the future when I see that belly play to make sure who's got the ball. Sorry about that, folks, as it's 1st and goal for Waynesburg inside the 10-yard line.
This was a very well-executed play.
26-yard gain there by Lee Fritz.
And he didn't rush for almost 1,100 yards for nothing. I mean, this is something they've done all year, and he has more rushing attempts than Lanford Simpson does.
And there's Lanford Simpson running out of the full house backfield inside the 5 down to about the 3. 2nd and goal. Tackled by Jonathan Ladon, one of 4 Ladon brothers on this Aliquippa team. There's only 33 players on this Aliquippa team, and Coach Mike Smianek told us that here's an interesting little tidbit. Every player on this Aliquippa team has a mother and or a father from Aliquippa. So this is definitely a homegrown unit.
Absolutely homegrown. And once again, we talked about Monaca and Rochester. Aliquippa, they just nuke these kids. I mean, they just put them in the oven and bake them out for next year.
They don't rebuild, they reload. There's the inside handoff. Not much going there. We just saw that last graphic, 59 yards for Waynesburg rushing. Before this drive, they only had 1 yard rushing, so even I can do the math there. They've gained 58 yards on the ground on this drive.
Well, this is what they're going to have to do. We talked about their offense being their best defense. If Aliquippa's on defense, they can't score, and they're just consuming the time waiting to get it into the 4th quarter, and hopefully it ends up that they're going to be ahead.
Number 22, Craig Bland, comes in with the play from the sideline, gives it to Lee Fritz, and it's 3rd and goal, and this is a big play here, Sam.
Well, I look for Lee Fritz to be doing something here, either running an option or at least running with the option to throw.
Well, there you go. He rolls to his right. He's in some trouble. Lost one up. Oh, intended for Bland, but one of his own players deflected the ball. I think that was Derek Mears who may have deflected the ball, number 32.
It looked like there was a bad read as far as who's going to be in that area because they had 2 receivers there. Exactly. He threw the ball up, and they both thought that they were going for the ball, and they knocked it out of each other's hand.
That's exactly what happened. Mears and Bland both collide, and looked like it might have been a touchdown for Bland, who's one of the best receivers in Western Pennsylvania, regardless of classification, Sam. This guy's a great receiver, number 22.
You're absolutely right, and I thought he had it right in his hand, and the other kid come right by and knocked it out.
Well, let's get to the business at hand. It's 4th down. Forget the field goal. Waynesburg wants to go for the touchdown, but Fritz now turns around and calls another timeout.
We've seen this happen several times during the course of the day where they break the huddle, they get up to the line of scrimmage, and before the quarterback gets underneath the center, there's some kind of confusion, and they have to call a timeout. And these timeouts that they're wasting here are going to back up towards the end of the half and toward the end of the game. That was an uncalled for timeout.
Let's go back down to Billy Osborne down on the field. Billy, what's up?
WPIAL souvenir programs of the final championships here at Three Rivers Stadium are on gates A and B for $3.
Sorry about that. So now it's 4th down. It looks like they're going to go for it, Sam. And in some ways, though, that's not much of a surprise because, again, we've been talking about the mirror images of these 2 teams. Dave Serra's team is not a very good special teams team as far as field goals, just like Aliquippa. Aliquippa went for 2 after they scored their touchdown. And Waynesburg's been rather iffy as far as the field goals go, so I guess it's not that much of a surprise. But as soon as I say that, here comes Waynesburg up to the line of scrimmage. It looks like they are going to try a field goal.
With 4th and 3 or 3.5, what they're looking for now is just to get on the board, get some confidence. They know they can run the football. They know they can execute their offense, and they just want to get some points on the board.
And Lanford Simpson punches it through, and Waynesburg's on the board. So after Aliquippa scores in its first possession, in the first possession of the 2nd quarter, Waynesburg marches down and gets a field goal out of it. Cut the lead in half to 6-3 with 6:48. Now, Billy Osborne, let's go down to you down on the field, buddy.
And down here, you talk about Waynesburg Central, and you talk about Lanford Simpson, the fullback. He only needed 47 yards coming in today's ball game to reach 4,000 rushing yards in his career. Well, he's got 33 so far, and he's doing it on the ground, and as you saw right there, he just did it on his feet, too, by kicking the field goal to give Waynesburg Central on the board with 3 points.
Thank you very much, Billy. So just 14 more yards for Lanford Simpson to reach the 4,000-yard mark. Scoring drive, 10 plays, 55 yards, 5:04 time of possession as Aliquippa looks a little bit vulnerable on that last drive, which I think psychologically was very important for Waynesburg. Sam.
I absolutely agree with you, Rob. Psychologically, the 58 yards that they move the football, Waynesburg knows that they can do that. They can also get their quarterback in the groove as far as running the football is concerned. They put points on the board, so everything that happened in that drive was very positive.
And Waynesburg will be kicking off. Danny Haught will be doing that chore.
And it's very critical that they get a very good kickoff. They don't want to give Aliquippa the ball around the 35, 40-yard line. And that's exactly what they're going to end up doing here if they field it.
Little squibber, and that's picked up. Eventually it's picked up by Quanier Gaskins. He's running east to west rather than north and south, and gets pushed out of bounds at the 15-yard line.
Very poor in fielding the ball. They let it bounce on the ground, and if you're back there on special teams and you're receiving a kickoff or a punt, the worst thing that could happen to you is to let the ball hit the ground. It hit the ground, wait for it, the highest point after the second or third bounce, pick it up and get as many yards as you can.
Neither team has a particularly strong kicking game, and you'll see lots of squib kicks on this day. Aliquippa out in front 6-3 with 6:40 to go. If you just joined us for our quadruple header here on Fox Sports Net, in the single A game, Rochester defeated Monaca 13-6. We've got the double A game, then we've got the triple A with Stan Savran and Danya Nessa, then the quad A game with Guy Junker and Danya Nessa as well. Lay goes deep, and he's got a man. That's Ladon, who's wide open, a couple of feet ahead of the rest of the defenders, and he's down near to the 30-yard line.
I'll tell you what, that was a really nice executed play by Josh Lay. I put the ball up in the air about 35, 40 yards, dropped it right on top of his numbers.
A 55-yard pickup.
Great ball fake there.
And Craig Bland, a good 4 or 5 steps behind Ladon. We can't really tell if that was a blown coverage. Bland, the cornerback, and Lee Fritz, the quarterback, who also plays free safety for Waynesburg, finally was able to wrestle Ladon down near the 30-yard line after a 55-yard gain, and the Cooks are right back in business on the 31-yard line, 1st and 10.
Changed field position in one swell swoop there.
Well, we talk about how explosive this team is, and they are, and back goes Lay again. He throws one off his back foot, and that's going to be picked off. A very bad pass there by Lay. He didn't really plant his feet, Sam, and he just threw it up, and now we've seen 3 jump balls. It worked once. There was an offensive pass interference the second time, and now an interception.
Yeah, and I don't quite understand the philosophy behind that. I mean, you got good field position, and even though the pass worked there to bring him down here, why you have to go back and put him in the position where he's going to throw the ball up for grabs. Very poor decision on Josh's part there also.
That was Lee Fritz, the quarterback and free safety, with the interception. We told you he does a little bit of everything, and he does. He returns kicks, he returns punts, he also does a little punting, and he plays quarterback, and he's behind the center on 1st down for Wayne.